Сьогодні, 29 листопада, 11 років тому мирний протест на Майдані було жорстоко розігнано спецпідрозділом «Беркут». Саме тоді акція протесту перетворилася на справжню революцію, яка, як і її попередниця, мирна помаранчева, закінчилася перемогою. Якщо у першому випадку це був потужний протест прихильників опозиційних сил проти фальсифікацій на виборах, у другому випадку це було повстання проти панування проросійського режиму президента Віктора Януковича, який дискредитував себе незаконними переслідуваннями діячів опозиції, допускав нестримне насильство з боку правоохоронних органів. Зрештою, відмова Януковича підписати угоду про асоціацію з Європейським Союзом, яка символізувала рішучий поворот у бік Росії, спровокувала масові протести. Втім, коли він намагався придушити їх силою саме в ніч з 29 на 30 листопада, він зіткнувся з повномасштабним повстанням у відповідь. Це повстання допомогло зберегти демократичний розвиток України, але також викликало реакцію з боку Росії. Прагнучи протидіяти руху України до Європи і демократії, Росія почала відкриту агресію проти свого сусіда. Сьогодні ми розмовляємо з Ігорем Бігуном, дослідником, кандидатом наук та офіцером Збройних сил України. У 2013-2014 роках він був студентом і активним учасником протестів на Майдані. Більше того, він брав безпосередню участь у силах самооборони Майдану.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience of that day, November 21st?
I thought that the protest of 2013 was somehow coincided with protest of 2004. The Orange Revolution also started in late November. So I thought that it was somehow symbolic coincidence. For the first time I visited the protest, I guess 2 days later, on Sunday, when there was a big rally, when political parties gathered all their activists, all their sympathizers, and it was the square, and not only Independence Square, but also European Square, Європейська площа, which is next to Maidan. All them were overcrowded with people, with protesters who wanted to express their opposition to that resolution of the Mykola Azarov government, the resolution which reversed our European integration course.
Oh, I see. And this was a decision by Yanukovych. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. It was the decision of Yanukovych and his government, and the government, the cabinet of ministers, was that government body that announced this decision. But of course, we understand that the person who took the ultimate decision was the president. And as we know nowadays, Yanukovych was somehow pressured by Russian President Vladimir Putin, because all this happened after his visit to Russia, after his meeting with Putin.
Can you tell me a little bit about the atmosphere of the protests before November 30th?
The atmosphere was somehow it resembled the energy of that previous Orange Revolution. And Orange Revolution was something like more festival, not a protest. It was completely peaceful, almost no violence at the time, and this first week of Euromaidan was almost the same. As far as students were organized the best, this was like the best organized force of protest. Many commentators or journalists labeled that period as student Maidan. Though I don't think it's quite correct, because the portrait of typical protester was very versatile. There were students, there were youth, there were people of middle age, there were pensioners, retired people. So it was not only students who protested against this policy of leaning towards Russia.
Can you tell me what November 30th is called the beginning of the Revolution of Dignity? Why is that? What was special about November 30th?
At that day, at November 30th night, the new stage of this protest began. Before, this protest was completely peaceful. People went to the city center. They gathered. They convened a rally. Politicians and civic activists delivered their speeches. There were even politicians from foreign countries. I remember Radoslav Sikorsky, if I remember correct. I remember some representatives of European Union. And of course, we hope that we can somehow express our position and affect the government, the state, to correct their decision. But on Friday, we learned that Yanukovych refused to sign that agreement, association with EU agreement in Vilnius summit. So the conclusion was that the protest didn't reach its aim, its goal. And I think if the events would not develop as they eventually developed, that protest would have ended right there. But Yanukovych administration decided to show its strength or to punish protesters. So at night, even in early morning, on the 30th of November, the riot police unit Berkut attacked the protester camp and dispersed the protest.
Were you there on that day?
Yes, I was present there. Usually I went in evenings. I went home to spend nights, but I spent 2 nights at the camp, and that was my second night. I remember that the atmosphere was rather tense and thrilling. We expected that something was going to happen. And various rumors were that the government, that the city administration brought some so-called titushkas. These were like hooligans or thugs who was used by the authorities and the police to attack the opposition. Around midnight, most people went home. I thought that the equipment was dismantled. And I tried to go to sleep, but it was not very successful because of the cold and because there was no place to sleep, only chairs. So around 4 o'clock in the morning, I stood up and, made a walk around the camp to wake up and grabbed some tea with a cookie and to make myself warmer. Then I heard shouts, I heard screams, someone screaming, and people were running to the place under the Monument of Independence. I turned around and saw columns of riot policemen who were running from Institutska Street, from that way. Well, I also ran toward the monument, and that men who were still there, they gathered in about 3 or 4 rows. They gathered on the stages that led to the monument, so like live shield. The riot police well, they stood in front of us, but they didn't say almost anything. So there was not any warning. There wasn't any announcement that we should go away, or that they were going to attack or something like that. No, they just went. They just attacked without any warning. That's why I think that this was their goal, to hit us, to beat us, to punish us somehow. Maidan defenders who stood on the stages, steps, they were scattered in a blink of an eye. And of course, because what could they oppose with to policemen? The policemen were in helmets, they had body armors and batons in their hands, and we had nothing. Only some people had weared bicycle or ski helmets, and that's all. The only way, the only passage out of that square was in the direction of Хрещатик Street, because two sides from Institutska Street and from the Globus shopping mall were rounded by the policemen, riot police Berkut, and the other side from the conservatory, where the Christmas tree was standing, there was a cordon of interior troops. Fortunately, I escaped, and my only damage was just one hit by a policeman's baton in my head. There wasn't any blood or something like that. It was just pain.
Well, why did it change next? What was it about this that inspired people to keep the protest going and to actually go from protests to a full-blown independence movement?
By that crackdown, the authorities crossed the line. The violence was not justified by all means, because our protest was peaceful, and peaceful protest is a natural right of people in a democratic country. By cracking down the protests, the government broke the law themselves. Video footage of the policemen hitting, beating protesters, especially, they didn't spare even women, even girls, and even students who were 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. To many people, that picture looked like they beat our children, they offend our children, and of course, this emotion transisted to many people, to the whole society. So then people wanted to protest not so much in favor of the European integration, but against such treatment and against these violations and abusing from the side of the police and from the side of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Then the demands of the protesters, which included signing the European integration agreement at first, then were supplemented by the demands to fire the Minister of the Interior and to fire the whole government.
How about the demographics of the protest? How did they change after November 30th?
Well, of course, they changed. The demographics changed just in terms of quantities. I remember that the next weekend, the next Sunday after the crackdown, there were around, I think, 1 million people in the center. gathered on the 1st of December. This was the 1st of December, the day after the day of the crackdown. I think the whole city and protesters from other cities rose and they poured into the streets, and they occupied Хрещатик Street, they occupied the Independence Square, the European Square, and the whole downtown was covered with people, and there were people of various ages, of various backgrounds, various professions. Well, so I think it wouldn't be a mistake to say that they represented the whole Ukraine.
How did the Revolution of Dignity end?
Well, the whole society was shocked by those shootings at Maidan, and both the society and both the many politicians, even politicians from the ruling party of regions, the Yanukovych party. There was massacre, bloodshed in the center of the capital. It was a big shock for everyone. That was the moment when the parliamentary opposition leaders were able to convince the members of parliament from other parties and from the ruling party that something had to be done. They voted for some resolutions to stop the violence. They called the police from the city center. In the end, Yanukovych fled from Kiev.
To Russia, as it turned out. Can you tell me, where would Ukraine be today in your minds if there had been no Euromaidan protests, no Revolution of Dignity?
Oh, I don't want to even try to imagine, but I'm convinced that unless the Euromaidan happened, Ukraine would end like Lukashenko's Belarus, like other authoritarian countries, like autocracies, or even we certainly would be a satellite country with Russia, and I think we could lose our sovereignty and our Ukrainian identity. And that's why I'm strongly convinced that Euromaidan and Revolution of Dignity were very necessary, and that was our turning point that turned our country's vector in the right direction. And the following developments, like the annexation of Crimea, the Russian military interference in 2014, and the full-scale invasion, only prove these assumptions. Either this way, either another way, Putin's Russia would try to hold Ukraine with it. And the Revolution of Dignity, well, it was our chance for our independent life. And one more thing, we can just see what ex-Prime Minister Nikolai Azarov writes on his Twitter and other social media while staying in Moscow. Since he was resigned, he lives in Moscow. And his social media are full of various brutal words towards Ukrainians. He refuses to recognize our own will and our own he refuses to even recognize that we have a right to live our own life without Russia. So we could only imagine where he could lead our country if he stayed a prime minister. He is a completely pro-Russian person, and even not pro-Russian, but a Russian person who opposes any European vector of politics.